Hey there, everybody, and it is still Halloween. I know you're thinking we just saw you a second ago, but I couldn't get through this season without talking about the Halloween movies and ranking them, all 11 of them, from worst to the best. So, with that said, here is our ZMAM show ranks the Halloween franchise movies. Starting at number 11, we have Halloween Resurrection. 2002, this movie was just a hot mess, and that's what I'm gonna leave it at. It's funny too because I used to kind of half enjoy this movie, but over the years of seeing it a few more times, which I know you can't believe I've seen it that many times, I've really come to dislike it even more. It was just kind of poorly done with its choices over its actors. Their lead actress was really strong. As she has some certain demons that she's trying to battle, but it had Busta Rhymes, Tyra Banks, again, not trying to target any kind of community or whatever. It was just, the acting, it just didn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, I guess they could have gotten away with Tyra probably because she was the assistant, but Busta Rhymes, just his whole style, it makes it more of a comedy than it actually is a thriller, horror slasher, or whatever. So it just kind of just broke from the mold. Didn't really enjoy it so much. So that is my number 11. Let's move into number 10. Number 10, we have Season of the Witch, which is Halloween 3. So this was 1982. This one, it's so low in the rankings. It's not necessarily a terrible movie per se. It is your standard 80s kind of sci-fi-ish thriller flick. But the problem is it doesn't even follow the Halloween series at all, or the franchise. It totally goes off script because if you guys know the history, and there will be spoilers throughout all this, so if you haven't seen the movies, make sure to maybe pass on until you've seen some more of these movies. In Halloween 2, Loomis at the very end, Dr. Loomis, ends up blowing up himself and Michael Myers, thus killing them both. And so I guess they figured that, hey, you know, Michael's dead, but we're making so much money off this franchise, we got to keep it going. And so thus came Halloween 3. An interesting story about this huge Halloween mask making company, which is in the middle of nowhere, that basically they have this ploy where they have these little devices on them, and on Halloween night, the 31st, around 9 o'clock or something, they're all going to explode. And not only do they explode, but they also introduce something into the bodies which causes like deadly spiders and snakes and everything else to come out and then attack the other family members. Very sick ploy. Interesting movie all the same, but just not very strong, and also did not stick with the story of Michael Myers. So this one is at my number 10. So let's go ahead and go into number 9. Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. I don't even call it 6, it's just The Curse of Michael Myers. Made around 1995, starring a very young Paul Rudd. And this one, again, kind of just taking the story in a whole nother direction. There's now this cult, which they did introduce a little bit in Halloween 5. There was that dark figure guy who kept going around. He's the one who ended up shooting up the police station and kind of helping Michael out in general. Well, they continued that part of the story in Halloween 6 Curse, which basically they're trying to get a now older, grown-up Jamie Lloyd's baby, which did not star Danielle Harris, probably a good choice on her part, by the way. But they want to get her baby, and basically they want to try and use it to, I guess, appease Michael and the gods, I guess, so they can harness the power that he has. Anyways, kind of a goofy plot and whatnot. At least it had to have Dr. Loomis back in it, Donald Pleasance, which was awesome. Unfortunately, he did pass away at the end of that movie. But this movie was plagued by misdirection and not understanding between the producers, and the directors. They would not come down one way or another on certain ideas, and so you just have this hodgepodge of all these crazy ideas, and it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So there you have it, Curse of Michael Myers, 1995, not so good. Moving on. And so our number 8, the Halloween 2 remake by Rob Zombie. So this was 2009. So Rob Zombie had his chance to reboot these movies, and this was definitely the weaker of the two. Unfortunately, again, with the director as Rob Zombie not having his heart into the full production, basically after the successes of the remake of number 1 in 2007, the producers said, we want you to do number 2 because we know you'll do a good job, you'll make us money. Except Rob Zombie wanted to do his own film. I believe it was House of a Thousand Corpses around that time. It could have been one other, but all the same, he wanted to go on his own route. But they said, hey, you do 2 for us and we'll greenlight your next movie. And so, of course, like any solid director, you're going to go ahead and take that opportunity. And so he did. But again, his heart wasn't into it. The script and the writing was very poor. I will admit, what was really cool about the movie, though, the very beginning, when the scenes that go back to the hospital, where Laurie, is hurt, from her encounters in the first one, and Michael is still after her. I had to rewatch this one recently just to kind of remember some of the things that went down. I mean, that's how fast they went out of my head over the years. I just haven't watched the movie again. and it was very intense, I will admit. But again, spoiler here coming up, you end up finding out that it's all just a dream. So, and by the time she comes back to, she's just all torn up, just from all the mayhem that went on that night. It's messed with her brain. She's on painkillers, drinking. She just can't find herself. So it was an interesting movie, but just not very strong. So there's my number 8 at the Halloween 2 remake. And now for number 7, Halloween H2O, 20 years later. So this one picks up literally 20 years after the incident at the hospital. So that was the 1981 Halloween 2 film. So in H2O, we found a broken Jamie Lee Curtis who basically has been living in fear, thinking that Michael could be around the corner at any moment. Even though she did see him explode in a ball of fire along with Dr. Loomis, she knows that he could be somewhere out there. And in fact, he is. And he manages to locate where Dr. Loomis was being cared for by that original nurse that was in actually Halloween 1. And I think she might have been part of 2, but either way, she was definitely in 1. She was the one who told Loomis that the file had been opened by the governor to find out more information about Michael Myers having another sister, which was Jamie Lee Curtis. So anyways, this movie was okay. They had some kind of cool things going on. It was also introducing Josh Hartnett at the time, which that was just his making into the movies. And so, Michael goes on his rampage. I wasn't really super psyched about Michael's portrayal in this one, and his mask. It was just kind of weak. But all the same, H2O, it was definitely a movie worth watching, and it is kind of cool because Jamie Lee finally gets some rage and some revenge in her towards the end of the movie, and decides to try and fight Michael on her own, and has a pretty cool little outcome. So that's that one. So at our number 6, we have Halloween 5, which is The Revenge of Michael Myers from 1989, and then our slot number 5, I have Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, which was 1988. So this one takes the story in a different direction. This one actually has the daughter of Laurie Strode, which is Jamie Lloyd, and Lloyd is from the name of the family that she's living with, I believe. And so this was starring Danielle Harris, and she was a very talented young girl playing this role because there was a lot of pressure on her to kind of reignite this franchise around this time. And I will admit, the movies are pretty cool, and I have them higher up on my list because they just feel nostalgic. They feel like the old style of horror. You don't have to show a ton of gore. It's just Michael, and he's stalking and just doing what he does best. Danielle Harris also, I didn't find her annoying. She did a good job. You really feel bad for this little girl. And, with losing, so her mom, which was Laurie Strode, and I guess her dad at the time, had died about a year prior to the Halloween 4 in some kind of car crash. And so she's all on her own. She's being cared for by this other family, and along with Rachel, the oldest daughter from this mom and dad. And so they become really good friends, and one family, almost like sisters, as they try to make it through this craziness. So again, 4 and 5 were very interesting. 5 was really interesting as well because it included that cult that I mentioned a little bit earlier when we were talking about the Curse of Michael Myers, which was Halloween number 6. And so they introduced this dark figure guy who's just kind of moving around the city while Michael's doing his stuff. And this guy is helping Michael pretty much achieve his mission. So that's kind of sinister in itself. They never really get into it much, but that's when you hear more about it in Halloween 6. So again, that was Halloween 4 and 5 in those 2 slots. And now moving into our number 4, Halloween 1, the remake by Rob Zombie. So again, in 2007, he had the chance to reboot this franchise and bring us a different take on the whole Michael Myers deal. So what was interesting about Rob Zombie's deal is he was kind of showing the broken life and the home life of Michael himself. Everything from his kind of single mom and her loser boyfriend or whatever. I think his name was Ronnie or whatever. But by the way, beautifully played by some of the characters, and it was very intense. This was a very intense movie and very gory. So if you were used to kind of like the originals, where it's just kind of subtle and him stalking whatever, Michael takes on a whole nother face in this one. He is just pure rage and pure evil. And I think it's Malcolm McDowell, I believe, plays Dr. Loomis. He does a pretty good job in there as well. I forgot to mention that I hated what they did with him in the Halloween 2 remake because they kind of made it into it was like a money profiting scheme. Like he was just making money off Michael and this. That's not what Loomis was all about, and it kind of just went against all the ideals. They kind of started hinting at it a little bit, but it looked like he was seriously trying to help Michael in the Halloween 1 remake, and so you had to try to appreciate that. Plus the girl who played Jamie Lee Curtis's Laurie Strode, she did a very good job, I thought. You really felt bad for her, and it also gave a little bit of a twist too about Michael and what his objective was. It wasn't just that Michael was trying to just kill her; he actually wanted to see his little baby sister again. I mean, Lord knows what would have happened beyond there, but he didn't want to kill her. But after he already, again, spoilers, he murdered her mom and dad, which I don't even think she knows at the point in time yet. But he's killed a lot of her friends. And she's just like, this psycho, get him away from me. She doesn't know who he is or what he wants. She just needs to get away or kill him if he can. And once she tries, it pretty much enrages him even further. And then he gets back on the prowl, just pretty much trying to kill her. There were some great jump kind of scare areas in this one too. I think Rob Zombie did an overall pretty solid job on this movie. Again, a little bit too intense and gory, but I mean, for those fans like myself who enjoy that, I think you will enjoy it as well. As for our number 3 slot, we have Halloween 2, the 1981 version, at the hospital. So this is literally the continuity following straight after the first film. So I love this because it was going straight after number 1, after Loomis shot him off of the Doyle little terrace up there or whatever. He disappears, and you just gotta love Loomis. I always joke around with my wife. We have a lot of fun. She goes, "I shot him 6 times." You know, you just gotta love Loomis, and it's his style, and like he's so passionate. He has to kill Michael. He knows what he's capable of, and I love Donald Pleasance in this movie. It's so funny that actually Jamie Lee Curtis's character is only in the movie for, I think it said like 25, 26 minutes. Although she did get paid a considerably amount more money in this one versus the previous. In Halloween 1, I think the original, 78, she only got paid like $6,000 or $8,000 for her role. But in number 2, obviously since the movie brought in so much money and whatnot from 1, she made more like $150,000, $180,000. I know there's a gap there, but it was a ton more money, so that was awesome. She finally got to see the fruits from her labors. So, but this one was at the hospital. The hospital was creepy. Some of the characters were interesting. It was just kind of fun, though. But again, Michael's stalking around a hospital that's kind of deserted and whatnot. Super creepy. I just really enjoyed it. So again, Halloween 2, 1981, that's my number 3. And now, as for our top 2 slots, what are they going to be? We have the 2018 film that just came out, and we have the original, 1978, Halloween. And so, number 2 is going to be Halloween 2018. This movie was just awesome. I already did a review on this, so if you want to hear a little bit more about it and not get too many spoilers in it, please make sure you check out my other video. But yes, the 2018 version, they did a really good job. Unfortunately, the only writer I can really remember is Danny McBride. I know there's 2 others involved as well, but they just did a solid job of bringing this intensity and the franchise back to life. Michael's mask was on key. The music was perfect by John Carpenter. Some of the characters, bringing back Jamie Lee Curtis, and empowered and strong, but yet still broken, you know, within. And seeing her family ties and what's happened to her over these 40 years that Michael has been dormant. And now this jackass finally has come back to full rage mode. And they kind of change it up in this one too. They try to make him more of a human than like a true evil presence that he can just be shot and shot over and over or whatever, or blown up. So that was kind of cool too. But anyways, they just had so many neat things going to this one. They had a lot of great nods to all the other movies because basically Halloween 2018 negated everything after. It negated 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way through. So, you know, that did kind of peeve me a little bit when I found that out. But after seeing the movie and seeing what they accomplished and what they did, it was very super cool. So, with that said, Halloween 2018 is the number 2 slot, which just leaves one more slot, the number 1. Yes, it is still the reigning Halloween of 1978, starring Donald Pleasance, Jamie Lee Curtis, I forget the chick who plays Annie, but Linda. They were just PJ Souls, I think, played Linda. They were just a bunch of cool characters, and it was the start of it all. Remember, I mean, yeah, slashers have kind of been around throughout the mid-70s and whatnot, and they were just kind of terrible. But this one was finally a solid movie, just a solid, coherent, with good characters that you actually cared, well, mostly that you cared about, and also this evil entity that you're just like, what is this guy going to be up to next? And it kind of started everything. It started everything for the masked killers when we talk about like Jason Voorhees and we talk about Freddy, you know, even though this isn't a mask, but still it's that style and it's that stalking. And this movie brought all that, I believe, to life. And I think a lot of others believe that as well. So with that said, those are the 11 Halloween movies. An awesome franchise, even though it's a crazy franchise, but is it really any worse than Friday the 13th or even Nightmare on Elm Street, because let's face it, everything after 1 pretty much blew, except maybe the later ones, Jason vs. Freddy, whatever. So there's so many movies out there. I hope to get some other reviews out there and some other top picks for thrillers and horrors from the 80s, the 90s, and maybe even the 70s too. So I really hope you enjoyed this review. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to check out our other content on our channel. Visit us at www.deadnightmare.com. You can check out our short zombie series. We just released episode 6, and there's just a lot of other cool links out there as well. So with that said, guys, I hope you have an awesome and very safe Halloween. I have to get outside. We actually build an entranceway to our house where the kids can walk through 4x8 sheets, all painted up black, things all around, and then I dress up and scare the living crap out of parents and their kids. So with that said, I got to get going. I hope you guys have a great Halloween. See ya.